Hi guys, and welcome to the Wrestling Retrospective, and in today's video it is a big one. It is my Wrestlers of the Year for 2025. Yeah, this has been a huge year for wrestling. There's been a lot of stuff going on. I know that there's also been a lot of complaining, but for me this was a really tough choice of list. My number one has changed multiple times when putting this video together. So yeah, I hope you all enjoy it, and do subscribe for lots more wrestling content. And yeah, let's get into the list. Starting off with the honourable mentions. I know during Wrestlers of the Month I just put it on screen. I put it on screen here as well, but I thought I'd go through and talk about why they are honourable mentions. We've got Bandito, who is Ring of Honor World Champion, has been for over 270 days at this point. He was World Tag Team Champion with Brody King as part of Bandito. They were champions for 90 days, and arguably has been one of the best in-ring wrestlers this year. You've got Trick Williams, who was NXT Champion for only 7 days within this year. TNA World Champion for 140 days. He was the first WWE contracted star to win a TNA Championship, or at least one of the TNA major championships. And yeah, has main evented NXT and TNA at pay-per-views or PLEs throughout the year. Kyle Fletcher has had a breakout run this time in 2025. He's had great matches with Will Ospreay, Okada, Hangman Page. He got to the semi-finals in the Continental Classic, and of course he was TNT champion for 114 days as well. Dominic Mysterio is a two-time Intercontinental Champion with reigns at 33 plus days and 204 days. The current AAA Mega Champion at 111 days and counting. Was the last guy to pin John Cena in his career. And yeah, had great matches with Cena and Vikingo, and a really cool Fatal 4-Way at WrestleMania where he won the Intercontinental Championship. And my honorable mention, I feel like this might be more than one of the more controversial ones. He definitely could have made the top 10, but he's just missed out, just got an 11th, is Konosuke Takeshita. I feel like for me, he only doesn't make the top 10 because I don't cover New Japan on the channel, and I wanted to keep it to the majority of people that I cover on the channel on a regular basis. But yeah, he's the current IWGP World Champion and has had it for 80 plus days. He was the Never Openweight Champion, had it for 162 days. The International Champion, where his reign ended at 148 days, where he had it going into Revolution. He won the G1 Climax and became a semi-finalist in the Continental Classic. And yeah, I think if I covered New Japan, he'd probably be in the top 2, but just because it's only AEW and he's had fantastic shows in Continental Classic and was International Champion, he just gets into honorable mentions. But overall, yeah, he's had an absolutely iconic year as far as like just with being about doing everything. He's been in Mexico, he's doing DDT, he's doing New Japan, he's doing AEW, he's doing Ring of Honor. He has just been everywhere doing everything, and honestly I feel like he will probably be in the top 10 next year. At number 10, I have Hangman Adam Page, and it's been quite this 2025 for the Hangman. He went from Black Hat to back to Anxious Millennial Cowboy. He started off with retiring Christopher Daniels very early into the year, during his like mid-crisis between being a full-blown heel and being a babyface. He had losing efforts in the Casino Gauntlet matches and feud with MJF at Revolution, but then the face turn happened and things really turned around for him. He won the Owen Hart tournament, having a fantastic match with Will Ospreay in the finals at Double or Nothing. He then joined the fight against the Death Riders, and this led to Hangman defeating John Moxley at All In Texas in a fantastic Texas death match. Arguably not as good as their first one in my opinion. I did prefer the first one, but it is like one of my favourite matches of all time. But he went on to become the AEW World Champion, managed to get the belt back out of the briefcase. We saw the belt for the first time in what felt like a year. I think it was just under a year. And yeah, since winning the world title, he's given opportunities to the likes of Leo Moriarty and Kyle Fletcher in an awesome match with Kyle Fletcher at All Out, and gifted a shot to Samoa Joe, which Joe did fail at first to get the title back, but Joe would then betray Hangman Page and would take the title from him at Full Gear in a steel cage match. And yeah, he would kind of feud with Joe for the rest of the year. They'd obviously be part of the Fatal 4-Way match at World's End as well. But overall, it was a pretty up and down year. Successful nonetheless, but like not as successful as others. And the only reason he's 10th is because of how well everyone else on the list did, pretty much. But when I when I was coming up to making this list, I thought Hangman would be much higher, but looking into his year, I feel like 10 is kind of a good spot for him. He's not had the best of years, but he has been incredibly successful in the latter parts. At number 9, I have Tiffany Stratton, and Stratton spent the majority of 2025 being undefeated. From January all the way to November, she wasn't pinned at all. In February, Stratton cashed in Money in the Bank she cashed in Money in the Bank on Nia Jax to become the new Women's World Champion. Her reign lasted 302 days. She defended it against Nia Jax, Jade Cargill, Charlotte Flair, and Trish Stratus, and in my opinion, got some of the best matches out of Jade Cargill that we've seen so far in her short run in WWE. She also had a great match with Stephanie Vaquer at Crown Jewel, which she did lose, but it was one of the better matches she had this year. And yeah, however, due to worked injury that came about after Jade Cargill turned heel on her, I assume it's a worked injury. We haven't seen her since November, which isn't great, but it's only been like a couple of months, which is fine for the most part. I mean, she's deserving of some time off after the absolute work she's put in this whole year. So yeah, I feel like as the first major title of many to come, I thought she had a really good run. And yeah, overall, again, just like Hangman Page, a very successful 2025. I just think, again, like everyone else on the list, just did that a little bit more. At number 8, I have John Cena, and the GOAT had a up and down year. Let's say his retirement tour didn't go exactly how we all expected, but it was still a good time nonetheless, and I don't think people will be so ungrateful once they start looking back on it in a few years' time. Cena arguably had the biggest heel turn of all time back in February at Elimination Chamber, though the Rock and Travis Scott part can really be very easily forgotten about, hopefully, and is still and was unclear at the time. I don't really feel like it matters as much now that his career has now come to an end. He had a 105-day reign as WWE Champion, and this was his 17th and record-breaking reign, of course. Then in the latter parts of the year, we saw John Cena return to that kind of 2015, 2016 Super Cena type wrestler, where he had great matches with the likes of Cody Rhodes, AJ Styles, and Sami Zayn, as well as putting over guys like Dominic Mysterio, Cody Rhodes, and of course Gunther as well. Overall, it was a great last run. He won the Intercontinental Championship, finally getting that Grand Slam title that he's been looking for so long. His reign only lasted 19 days, but it was more of a feel-good moment of a run and helped put Dominic over as well. And though some people may disagree with it being a good last run, I particularly enjoyed it. I can see why people are annoyed, but personally I'm choosing to enjoy it for what it was. And yeah, I feel like it came to a very emotional end. I know people hate the fact that he tapped out. I don't mind it as much. And yeah, I feel like it was just one of the better ways, and in a certain way poetic, to how he went with him giving up, but not giving up in a way of him betraying his own morals, but giving up to where he's giving up the WWE to the next guy, who I honestly don't know who it is. I know people say it's like Cody Rhodes, but I feel like we'll establish over the next few years who that next guy is to fill in those John Cena shoes. At number 7, I have Seth frickin' Rollins. And yeah, Rollins was a controversial figure for the majority of the year, especially from a fan's perspective. Some people absolutely can't stand the guy. Some people are really into the guy. Myself, I think Rollins is like one of the best guys WWE has at the minute and has had for a long time. But I think he's had a great year. He won the main event at WrestleMania in one of the outright highlights of the two nights, WrestleMania Night 1. I know some people might go, well, Night 1's not a main event. Yes, it is. That's the end of it. It is a main event, and he won it in controversial fashion, but it led to one of the best storylines in WWE for the rest of the year, which is, of course, him forming the Vision and giving... they controlled Raw pretty much from April all the way till now. They put a great platform in place for guys like Bron Breakker, Bronson Reed, as well as now Logan Paul and Austin Theory to progress up the card in. And yeah, even though Rollins isn't part of it anymore, at least we assume he's not. That remains to be seen because he's not returned yet, and we don't know what his situation will be with the Vision afterwards. You just assume because Breakker attacked him that he is no longer in it. But he made the platform of which these guys can now main event Raw every week and no one bats an eyelid. Not only that, but Rollins won the Money in the Bank briefcase and told a awesome story to lure CM Punk into a false sense of security, which then faked the injury. Everyone thought he was out for SummerSlam. He returns at SummerSlam, pulls off the ruse of the century, cashes in Money in the Bank, and becomes a 2-time World Heavyweight Champion. And though he eventually had to vacate it in October, and we haven't seen him since, I feel like he's more than earned a spot on this list. And I know it's quite low on the list. I feel like if we'd had him for the rest of the year and he hadn't have got injured, he'd definitely be in the top 5 at the least. But yeah, no, I feel like Seth has had a fantastic year, and I generally look forward to seeing what he's going to do in 2026 back as a babyface again. At number 6, I have CM Punk, and Pepsi Phil has had a much improved 2025 compared to his 2024. He started a almost year-long feud with Seth Rollins, which has been one of the highlights of WWE and Raw for the majority of the year. More importantly, he got like the biggest accomplishments in WWE, main eventing his first WrestleMania, which was long overdue, and he also became a 2-time World Heavyweight Champion. I know that his first reign was only like 5 minutes long, but a World Championship is a World Championship, and his current one is going much better and is still ongoing. I'm not sure how many days it's on as of right now, but he's going on to face Braun Breaker at the Jan 5th episode of Raw. Do I think he's going to retain there? I really do. I can't see him losing the title quite this early, but again, it wouldn't shock me though if Braun Breaker did beat him as well. But yeah, I feel like he's had some quality matches with the likes of Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns in the main event of WrestleMania. The match with John Cena was really good, and the match with Gunther I thought was his best match of the year at SummerSlam when he won his second World Championship. But I think Punk's success has gone kind of under the radar a bit. It definitely did with me. It wasn't made massively apparent. I have to give my brother Ewan a shout out for that, because he's the one that pointed out to me just how good of a year CM Punk has had. He wasn't even in my top 15 to start with, so yes, thank you Ewan for that. But yeah, he's had a really great year once I looked into it, and I don't think there's any denying that he fully deserves a spot on this list. At number 5, I have Gunther, and 2025 has been a huge year for the ring general. He retired not one, but 2 legends in Goldberg and, of course, the GOAT, John Cena. Match-wise, he's had some great battles with CM Punk. SummerSlam, he also had some good matches where he got some of the best performances out of the likes of Jey Uso, Carmelo Hayes, and Solo Sikoa. As well as this, he became a 2-time World Heavyweight Champion with reigns at 259 days and 54 days each, where obviously he did have this big feud with Jey Uso, which I know people weren't a big fan of, but personally, I did enjoy them. I think it helped out Jey Uso massively, and I know in the longer term of things it hasn't gone maybe as well as WWE wanted it to, but I feel like having a guy like Gunther against such a big babyface in Jey Uso made the most sense. Him being the last opponent for John Cena again made perfect sense, and hopefully in 2026 we start to see a bit more of a killer gimmick out of Gunther, where he's just destroying people left, right and centre. There's plenty of talent that he can kind of retire on the roster within the next year, you know, with the likes of the possible Chris Jericho. AJ Styles is of course looking at winding down a bit, or at least, well, he said that 26 was going to be his last year, so Gunther could be right in for that. R-Truth maybe could be on his way out, guys like Rey Mysterio, as well as, you know, Brock Lesnar's looking for a fight. Well, I say he's looking for an opponent for SummerSlam. We assume that SummerSlam is where he'll retire, and I feel like Gunther, having him beat Brock Lesnar in his last match would be huge for him. So, yeah, I can see 2026 being just as, if not more, successful for a year for Gunther. At number 4, I have Kazuchika Okada, and it has been a gold-filled year for the Rainmaker. He spent 361 days of 2025 as a Continental Champion, becoming the longest reigning champion in AEW history to date. Though Mercedes Moné is pretty close behind him as far as longest reigning champion, but I feel like her reign might be in a little bit of danger with her defense against Willow Nightingale, though it has already been by, as the time of recording, it is tonight. So I look forward to seeing whether Mercedes can get past Willow. But Okada has also had 2 other pieces of gold on his shoulders within this year, as well as the Continental Championship. He has had the International Championship, which he won from his fierce rival in Kenny Omega at All In Texas. And by bringing those titles together, they created the Unified Championship, which really didn't mean a great lot in hindsight. They've kind of taken it off the website now as well, and it I get the idea behind the unified title. I don't think it was just executed the best way, and I would have much preferred he just defend the Continental Championship and International Championship separately. But hopefully the International Championship starts getting used a lot more, as it is a very prestigious title and a very beautiful title, so I'd love to see it used more often. But yeah, he kind of killed the prestige of the International Championship, which wasn't great, and kind of marks him down a little bit for the year, but I kind of get it. It's part of the Unified Championship, which I can forgive to a point. Along with that, Okada had some absolutely great matches, and yeah, he defended the gold he defended the gold very well against Mascara Dorada and Takeshita in one of the highlights of the year at All Out. He tried to win more gold when he tagged up with Takeshita to take on Brodido in what was a fantastic match. And of course his match with Omega, though wasn't as good as their past battles, was very good as well at All In Texas. But yeah, Okada was my number one for like a while. It was only until probably World's End that he dropped off the number one spot. But yeah, I feel like I said, he's had a very gold-filled year. I'm not sure how successful his 2026 is going to be. I can see him kind of maybe going into the main event scene a little bit, maybe challenging for the AEW World Championship. But yeah, I look forward to seeing his feud with the likes of Takeshita and maybe even Kyle Fletcher going forward, as I feel like those guys will put on absolutely fantastic matches and better than the matches they put on before. At number 3, I have Stephanie Vaquer, and not only has Vaquer been a breakout contender, but in WWE she's been one of the highlights and one of the overall standouts of the year, lighting up the main roster and NXT in the past 365 days. She literally she spent nearly 200 days, or at least around 200 days, as a champion. In January, Vaquer had 0 titles to her name in WWE as of December 31st, so today of time of recording. She has had 3 championships, with 1 currently holding. And yeah, she started off by winning the Women's North American Championship, holding it for 45 days. Adding on to that, she won the NXT Women's Championship from Julia at Roadblock. She would hold that championship for 77 days. And then she'd be very quickly brought up to the main roster. Probably one of the quickest turnarounds as far as debuting in NXT and then coming up to the main roster. But it was well worth it and wasn't too early at all, as she would win the vacant Women's World Championship. And she's held that for just over 100 days at this point. And yeah, just a very successful is just an understatement for how Vaquer's year has been. She has probably had one of the best years in WWE, one of the best rookie years since arguably Brock Lesnar. And yeah, she has been absolutely killing it throughout, having absolutely fantastic matches with the likes of Stephanie Stratton, Nia Sky. And yeah, I look forward to seeing what her 2026 looks like, because if she can improve on this year at any kind of point, then she's going to end up on this list again for next year. And yeah, I feel like, as I said, she's probably the biggest standout in WWE this year. I know that they've had John Cena, they've had Rollins, they've had Breakker and all that kind of stuff. Well, I feel like success-wise, no one has been more successful than Stephanie Vaquer. At number 2, I have Mercedes Moné, and the CEO was certainly bossing women's wrestling in 2025. Mercedes has held 14 overall belts this year, 13 of them, of course, at the same time, and they were, and bear with me here, the TBS Championship, the New Japan Strong Women's, the Bread Pro Women's Undisputed Championship, the Ring of Honor TV Women's, the EWA, PTW, DW, WPW, I want to say APAC, but it might just be APAC, and Bestia Women's Championships, the Body Slam Women's Championships, and the CMML Women's World Championships. All of those titles that she has held this year alone. She became the longest reigning TBS champion ever, with her reign going at, as of this point, as of New Year's Eve, for 584 days overall. And yeah, as I say, she is defending it tonight against Willow Nightingale. And I don't know, I feel like her title might be in a little bit of jeopardy with how things have been going for her recently, which we will get to. But the only reason she doesn't get the top of the list is her lack of execution when challenging for the Women's World Championship, losing not only to Toni Storm at All In Texas, but also Chris Statlander at Full Gear. Though those matches were both absolutely brilliant, I'm surprised that she didn't target the Ring of Honor Women's World Championship as well, belonging to Athena, who she did pin during the Owen Hart tournament in another one of her standout matches of the year. To add on to that, Mercedes has been teaming with the aforementioned Athena, but did lose a battle with the Babes of Wrath, Willow Nightingale and Holly Cameron, at World's End, where she was unable to win the Women's Tag Team Championships. So for those losses alone, I feel like she just misses off, as they were like big championship matches, and as someone who is a belt collector, you should really be winning those kind of matches, if that makes sense. But I understand that, like, I mean, I would have been annoyed if she won those titles, so I'm kind of happy she didn't win them. But in an overall sense, I feel like if she'd won those matches, she would have definitely been in the #1 spot. But though since losing the Ring of Honor Television Championship to Red Velvet back at Final Battle, and then losing the Rev Pro Undisputed Women's British Championships to Alex Windsor at Holiday Bash, it seems like the downfall of Ultimo Monet is on the horizon. And yeah, I'm curious to see what kind of 2026 she has with less championships around her waist. And finally, #1, I have Jon Moxley. And what a year Moxley has had. He started off as arguably one of the most hated guys in AEW, and he's ending the year seemingly turning babyface, which is very surprising. But he spent 7 months of the year as AEW World Champion, and though you couldn't see the belt, it was in his briefcase. He was the world champion, so you can't really deny that. The Death Rider storyline was one of the biggest storylines of the year for AEW, and it led to a huge moment in Hangman Page, of course, defeating Moxley at All in Texas. From September to November, Moxley was putting over the likes of Darby Allin and Kyle O'Reilly, which was very unexpected. No one would have thought that Kyle O'Reilly was going to be one of the people that benefited from Jon Moxley's downfall. But he is making Moxley tap out multiple times, which is something that he hasn't done in AEW many times. And yeah, he was arguably going on his worst run ever in AEW. Then the Continental Classic changed everything. He wrestled week in and week out, not at 100%, and was having solid matches throughout as well, putting over his own teammate in Claudio Castagnoli in the process. He then went on to face two incredible talents in Kyle O'Reilly and Kazuchika Okada in the same night at World's End, and defeating them both to win the tournament and become the new and current Continental Champion, and in the process, as I said, seemingly turning babyface, which is a huge surprise and something I would have never considered, considering the way that Moxley was viewed this time last year. So yeah, for me, as hard as the decision was for Wrestlers of the Year, at one point it was Okada, at one point it was Mercedes Moné, at another point it was Stephanie Vaquer, at one point before I started looking into stuff it was Hangman Adam Page. I've actually gone with Jon Moxley, and I feel like it is the right pick. Like, when I was writing this script down, I genuinely was like, yeah, of course it's Jon Moxley. Like, look at everything he's done so far. He's won championships, he's won a big tournament, he's put people over, he's been part of the biggest storyline in his company. Yeah, it should have always thought about being Jon Moxley like the whole time. But yeah, I mean, I'm very happy. One of my favorite guys like in the whole of wrestling has won Wrestler of the Year for me. But honestly, personal bias aside, and just using the facts that I've gone through already, yeah, I do think Jon Moxley is 2025 Wrestler of the Year. So those are my Wrestlers of the Year for 2025. Already on the channel that came out yesterday were my Matches of the Year, so go and check that out. There's some absolutely fantastic matches there. If you haven't seen one or two of them or any of them, do go and check them out. They are fantastic. And yeah, coming up on the channel soon, there are the rest of my end of year awards, like Breakout Star of the Year, Pay-Per-View of the Year, Feud of the Year, Underrated of the Year, Underutilized of the Year, and Tag Team of the Year, and Moment of the Year. So a lot of other awards to come via the Wrestling Retrospective. That'll be in a couple of days on the 4th. On the 6th, there is going to be my predictions for stars of 2026. I've got a lot of names. I think it's in double figures worth of names that I want to go through, and I feel like they're going to be huge stars in 2026. And yeah, just lots of other stuff. Royal Rumble coverage as well will be coming up, so do subscribe and stick around for all that stuff. There's a lot of good wrestling content coming on the channel. There is going to be no let up. There's still going to be videos every day or every other day. So instead, if you enjoy wrestling is your thing, do subscribe. It is a good channel to be a part of. And yeah, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.